Hello.
Hello.
So we are back again today to continue this conversation that we've been having for the past several weeks on SMGI, understanding more what it is, how it heals, who it's for to potentially become an SMGI guide, practitioner, sort of really round out for people what this is and why it feels, particularly to me and to the clients I've done this with, so special. And I'm Michelle Michaela, and I am an SMGI certified guide. And I'm particularly passionate about this work. I'm always talking about it. And it's just really felt important to have this conversation with you, the founder of SMGI, and to continue it because I know so many of my clients, colleagues have really found these conversations we've been having to help them better understand it, because there's really nothing else that I have found that's like it to say, oh, it's this, only with a twist. It's like there's different pieces of it, but it really is kind of its own thing. And so I'll let you sort of fill in from there on that introduction, and we'll just continue and see what unfolds today.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I am Gina Vance. I'm a mind body coach that uses a special kind of hypnotherapy called SMGI, which is a protocol that I developed in working with clients since 2001. And, that what you just said brings to mind someone that called. Her friend had worked with me and was telling her how phenomenal it was. And so she called to see about working with me. And, it's telling her some about it and what it includes, parts work and some of the wonderful elements of hypnotherapy and guided imagery and shamanism and so on. And she's saying, well, I've done all those things already. It's like, so how's it different? And, it's tricky to define that if you don't experience it, but it is its own entity. It's its own being. It has its own energy, and it's delivered in a very particular way that is the orientation is much more on perceiving the client as a powerful soul on a heroic journey that involves intense experience, and that it's like the classic mythological rite of passage where there's a separation, there's these life-threatening challenges, whether they're actual or symbolic or metaphorical, and the magical figures that show up to help them along their way as they overcome. And then at last, recognizing that they defeated whatever the challenge was, that they triumphed. And now they recognize more about who and what they are and what they're capable of than they did on the other side of this rite of passage, sometimes called a dark night of the soul. And then, of course, like in the classic myth, now that initiate recognizes and is recognized in the value that they have to offer community when they return. And returning to community might not be returning to the community that you've left. It might be returning to the community that you're here to serve as a soul, having a human experience and combining in your own rich and unique way your soul and your humanity. And so it really is more connecting to the soul work. However, that's not what we lead with, because however people perceive that, usually people are wanting to do the work because they're wanting to experience something that's different than what they've experienced before in order to go deeper and get higher and feel more free.
Beautiful. One of the few words that I have that I do keep coming back to with people is the journey inward.
Mhm.
And we also reference this in the work as the inner journey.
Mhm.
And it really is, from the first sentence of the session of the guiding inward, it's, are you ready to be guided inward? Immediately, it's put your attention inward. And that's such a new paradigm to turn inward, attention inward versus attention outward, and what's possible when we turn our attention inward, and really that exploration of who we are and what's possible, and particularly from the feeling state, not the thinking state. My perception of myself and what my thoughts are is very, very different than my perception of myself and how I feel through the world.
Mhm.
One is, really hyper reactivity or hyper vigilance. It's a spinning out. It's got, how I perceive myself from thinking is so different than knowing myself from the feeling state. And my connection and my clients' connections, when they turn inward, that exploration, that journey is really magical. A client yesterday said, this feels like what I would assume or understand lucid dreaming to be, that you're in these magical dreams and you get to define and create what happens, which is true in both. It's true in lucid dreaming, and it is true here as well. There is another piece that often people ask me is this spirituality? And it's an interesting answer. For me, it's more, well, if you consider the right side of your brain, if you consider your imagination, if you consider your access to your desires, your creativity, if you see that as a spiritual journey, it is. It isn't necessarily in a category of spiritual, but it is moving into a different aspect of who you are rather than the thought forms from the left side of the brain.
Yeah.
And then also, I really see that the reason clients come out with that new version of or form of agency, that
Mhm.
sovereignty, is because of what they accomplished
Mhm.
in the inner journey have had these profound ripples out of what they even try or believe in is possible for them in the 3D realm because of what they experienced in the inner journey. So it does, I know it to be a soul's journey. And for me, that does represent a type of spirituality,
Mhm.
but it's really just uncovering or understanding the truth of who we are from more layers, more levels, more angles, more realms.
Mhm.
But it's already been there. It's just not necessarily been something that's been in people's visibility. And so their views of themselves are, I'm this, 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 and this, all left brain things. And then they come back and they say, and I'm also this, and I'm this, and I'm this. But the way that they are the hero or the lead in this play of the inner journey, that piece does feel so new in the work and in the work of what's available for ways for people to heal.
Yeah, I love that lucid dreaming connection, because after you do this work, a few times, then you realize that if you're waking up from a dream where you don't like what's happening, you can like, oh, wait, I have the power to change the ending. Because when you're doing an inner journey in this way, it's like a mental movie in a way, because you are the actor, the star. You are the supporting actors, and you're the producer, and you're the director, and you get to orient it to whatever ending feels best in your body. But you don't have to work it out and think about how you should do it and what needs to happen. You can let that inspiration come to you, and you can choose it or not. So, the spirited part of everyone's nature, it can be accessed through that right brain hemisphere, and the so-called outside the box thinking, where it's the realm of what's possible beyond what we've learned is impossible. And it can sound fanciful, you're just doing it in your imagination. However, it profoundly affects how you experience your past experiences. So, for example, a trauma that we continue to be activated by and wish that never happened, and get mad at people who activate it, that can be transformed into kind of like a fish story of a wonderful adventure where the fish almost pulled you overboard, and oh my gosh, but wow. Yeah. So it really has the power to change your experience of the facts that you lived through. And, it's very alchemical in that way, where it turns icky stuff into gold. And with the little bit of reading that I've done on alchemy and turning, lead into gold, one of the primary materials that they used besides lead was actually fecal matter. So, you get to turn shit into gold, essentially. But it doesn't happen by thinking. Thinking is welcome in the work, but that's only, like 1/3 of the equation, right? The thinker wants to think, it wants to speculate, it wants to ask questions and put you on the quest. And then the knower, the feeler, the sensor, the perceiver of all possibilities is the one that is actually experiencing the quest. And the thinker is translating it into words to share with yourself or with your guide. And also your heart brain, your belly brain, and all of the intelligence that science tells us exists in there is accessed. So it's truly mind and body engaging in experience together. And experience is what we learn by, whether what we learn are lies, but it's based on our experience. So when you journey in your inner world with your intention to change whatever you want to change, you will be shown, you will experience the journey that you need to have in order to change that. And one of the things that's different about SMGI, you come in with something that you want to change, and we don't hammer away at that. And in fact, to go back a little bit to what you were referring to earlier, the inner journey starts when they fill out our questionnaire, because we have magical questions on there that are designed to help them go within and access the response to those questions. And then with the help of the left brain, the analytical mind, to put them into words. So then when they're in our presence and we're going over their questionnaire, they're going in and then they're coming out to bring their response. So it's very gentle in how it introduces you to the safety and the possibility that exists in your inner world before we formally say, okay, you're ready to go in, right? And by the time we get there, people are jumping at the bit. Let's do this. And I also want to say that it's completely natural. Almost everyone that I've worked with over the years, the very first session, they're nervous, right? They don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if I'm going to scold them or judge them or ridicule them or, inflict my harsh dogmatic rules on them, right? We don't, when it comes to spirituality, that is something that naturally arises out of people's experience, because that's part of being a human being. It's not where we direct it. There's no dogma that you have to believe in. You know what? We don't all have to believe in the same things to be able to help each other. This is beyond the level of belief, what we believe in. Beliefs are just constructs to help us understand, make our way through the world. This goes deeper than belief to our essence, our essential nature, the essence of whom, what we are, and our power to create change. And so when we're working at that level, then it connects us to where we come from, our source, our soul, whatever a person understands it to be. But it's a part that sometimes it's called higher self, greater self, but it is a part that is greater than what we've all taught to kind of squeeze ourselves into, to be good children for our parents and for our teachers and our friends and our bosses and our et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
One of the things that I would love to have you reference is how this work easily creates for people new understandings of who they think they are. People will come in having, answering the questions, and they'll just naturally throw out things. Well, I'm not good at imagining. Well, I'm very analytical. Well, you won't find me being able to be creative in here. I don't think it's going to work on me. I'm not good with money. They really, really, just whether they realize it or not, are throwing out sentences, I am sentences, but they're not necessarily sentences that support who they want to be or who they necessarily are. And after the sessions with each one, they come out, and when one of the questions that we ask is, was there anything unusual or unexpected that happened? That's where they're like, I didn't even know I could, or turns out I am good at. So if you could talk for a moment about how this changes who we think we are.
Yeah. How it does that. I'm not sure of all the ways of how it actually gets done. I just know that it does get done.
Yeah.
But the process that we guide people through, I can definitely speak to that. So really, it starts with us helping to educe or draw out a person's desire. And we keep asking them to get to deeper and deeper and deeper levels. Like, I want to say someone, I want to lose weight. Okay, great. And we keep asking them, and then their desire might be to feel safe or to feel loved, or and the true desire has a lot of energy and a lot of power to it to propel the journey. So we start with their desire that then becomes their intention, which is incredibly powerful. It's like sets up a template, and then the journey just kind of unfolds within a template where you experience what you need to experience in order to create that result. It could be a health condition or relationship issue, career issue, whatever it is a person wants to change. So we're guiding them inwards to work with the power of their subconscious and their superconscious, unconscious, and all that includes, right? All that is helpful to them. And we're educating them along the way that this form of help can show up in any way, shape, or form. And for some people, it just starts rolling. And for others, we will give them examples of how it's worked for others, so that they have a sense of kind of what's expected, because we've all been trained, to what are the rules here, so that I know, what to do and what not to do, so I won't get in trouble. And so as we're guiding someone along, we're not telling them what kind of experience to have, but we are inviting them to connect to things in their inner world, to places and characters that them feel supported. And, you know, in essence, helping them connect to themselves and to their powers and wisdom to create change. And through that, to experience a sense of safety. However, we don't use that word. We don't ask people to relax, because those are net effects of people connecting to what's beautiful and feels good and supportive for them. And it might be things that we would never imagine. So helping people to connect to the strengths inside of them that are there, that maybe they've been tricked out of believing that they're there because of their experiences, or maybe they had to set those aside. And so they're kind of latent because it wasn't safe to embody and express those in whatever circumstances they were in before. But now usually there's some kind of problem that lets them know it's like, that is needed now, that's needed. And, you know, you're not going to get excommunicated, abandoned, or damaged in some way if you bring that part of your own essential nature back online and allow it to be circulating inside of you. And it goes back to something you said earlier too about the client experiences themselves as the lead. They are the star of the experience, and around which all of these parts, so they could be helping allies, or they could be suffering parts of the client, that the central part of the client can offer help and support to, while the client receives help and support from whomever or whatever shows up for them as an inner ally.
One of the reasons that I just really love this work is because it is so unusual. There's very few other things out there where someone's so immersed in something so real, where they get to be and experience and have anything. Like, there's just, it's so unusual. One of the things that I do is Akashic record reading. So I'm in someone's records and I can describe for them, this is a past life that's relevant to right now. Here's what you could learn from that. But I'm very much describing things to them and they're in a bit of a passive state. Or for instance, I've been in therapy before where the therapist is saying, well, this is an attachment issue. Again, I'm just listening to them. I'm sort of the student. I'm trying to understand. But with this work, you are in it. You are doing it. It is you. You are the lead. Everything is right there and you're experiencing it. And you're that profound sentence that we all hear, and it's hard to believe until you do this. We are our own healers. And that piece of our most complete inner wisdom, knowing what needs to heal, in what order and in what way. How did you get to this truth? Like, how did you create this? There's so much to it that works so poignantly well. And it doesn't feel like it is, like, again, it's a part this, part this, part this, part this, but how did you do this?
Well, I had a lot of inspired help. But you know what? What was most clarifying is being a person in pain, and all the wonderful healers that I availed myself of. None of it was more powerful than what was going on inside of me that wouldn't allow it to happen. So my own experience of not being able to receive freedom from suffering as quickly as I would have liked, and also kind of a process of elimination. So I'm pretty smart, you know, I can learn things pretty quick, pretty easy. And so I knew a lot of modalities, you know, healing modalities. I learned a lot of them to get myself out of my own pickle. And when I would offer them to clients, it would be like, like, okay, that, all right. And I'd offer it to the next person and they're like, that's no, right? And so my clients really showed me, how to just include the simple basic things that get them the most profit for their time, their energy, their attention spent in their inner world. So yes, it's informed by shamanism and my shamanic training and hypnotherapy. I had like wonderful hypnotherapy training in the alchemical model, and the best guided imagery training on the planet with Dr. Marty Rossman, and all kinds of energy work and all these different things. But part of it was like feeling in my body, as I got something that was helpful, but I felt in my body, it's like there's something missing. And so then once I got all the pieces in place, from the various teachers and protocols and orientations, my clients really showed me. So, and I was very ardently listening. Part of that was from my past trauma response. It's like, don't mess up, don't make a mistake, do no harm. And then part of it was, I have high standards for myself as a soul to bring the best. And so, after a few early years of doing this work, it finally clicked in where, oh, the onus is not on me as the therapist to figure out what needs to happen, what protocol to offer them, or to direct them through. That really there is, I learned to trust that there is an inner wisdom inside of each person that knows what needs to happen within the context of connecting to resources, clearing subconscious clutter, and retrieving and bringing their parts back, right? So that's just the three things to do. So any modality that you go out to experience, you're always doing a version of one of those three things or a combination of those three things. But that's the simpleness of it. And I kept finding that the more simple it was, the more profound the effects were. And, my clients and this work has taught me so much. Again, like I don't know all the mechanisms of how it works. Of course, I know the research where they've wired the monks, or they've wired the accident victims, and then their body responds to whatever they imagine, their muscles and their blood pressure, and physically responds to what they're imagining. So, all that's available, and but actually getting it done, that's a whole nother realm. So, education teaches us what's possible, and then actually doing it, that's where, the real satisfaction is. So it's very satisfying to serve someone else and then to hear stories about all the miracles that happen, things that we didn't even touch on.
Right.
One example that comes to mind, a young man came to me for career counseling because he wasn't sure if he wanted to create his own business or continue working as an employee. So we had 6 sessions, just guided him through the steps: connect to resources, clear clutter, integrate parts. And a year later, he calls me and says, I want some more sessions so you can help me clear pornography addiction, because you helped me clear my alcohol addiction last time. It's like, okay. And I thought, what? And I looked in his file, alcohol was never mentioned one time. So we just did our work, and then that was one of the net effects. And another person came in to stop using a substance every night. Beautiful young man, young family, and it was just, keeping him from being able to be present with the people he loved. Maybe 3 or 4 sessions in, I'm checking in, asking, what have you noticed is different, if anything? And he says, yeah, nothing tangible. I don't know that this is doing anything. However, I don't hate myself anymore, and my self-loathing has gone. Right. And it had been discovered that was the reason he was using his substance, because of his self-loathing and self-hatred, because of some trouble he got in when he was 8 years old. So, that's another thing about the work, is it's me coming from being super touchy, that just very conscious of the slightest slight or judgment was very threatening to my system. And so, those people are off my list. And so that helped me to recognize phrasing, wording, and order of offering that helps people to not, for their nervous system to not feel threatened. So part of SMGI is that the safety is a net effect of how it unfolds. And the onus is not on the therapist to know what's happening and what they need to do, but just to support them in letting it unfold. Your inner wisdom knows what you need to experience next. So just allow that to happen and let me know what you notice. And, when you're early in this work, you worry. It's like, well, what if it doesn't work? What if they say nothing? Right. And we address all of that in the course because it's perfect. It's a perfect part of their experience on their way to creating the changes that they desire.
You mentioned the course. This feels like a good time to segue into talking a little bit about the training, the SMGI training course. My experience of it, of seeing who has been, who the people so far, the SMGI guides are, they hold a particular spark, a specialness of really having been looking for something a little different, a little more special. But they're from all walks of life. They're all ages. So it's not a particular demographic by any means, but they do have this thing, this fire, or this idea or sense that there's something more than what they've experienced so far. Can you talk a little bit about maybe who this course is for, even maybe who it's not for?
Mm-hmm. Well, who it's not for is someone who wants to be the operator, right? That I am doing something to you that is getting a result.
Okay.
Now, that can be a great experience to have. Just lay on someone's table and have them operate, whether it's a shaman praying over you or a surgeon, cutting something out of you and sewing you up. Right. So there is absolutely a place for that if that's what you're oriented to. The people that are attracted to being practitioners are people that are really love to be inspired. And so when we are supporting someone's journey and the surprising things that unfold, bless and inspire us. It's like, oh, wow, this could happen. Oh, wow, that happened. And it seemed like, but then you come back and report all these miracles happen. So it's really people that are attracted to this work. They want to be able to bring out the best in those in their sphere of influence versus direct and create the effect in the other person. And again, there is a place for that, but this is, someone might be bored with this work as a practitioner if that's what gave them the most satisfaction, is to have to be clever and to have to figure out how to direct the person. So that's who it's not for. And also people that are afraid of depth. Right? There's plenty of those around. Right? And even the people who say, oh, no, I'm not, oftentimes they are, because in the depths, are scary things. They're very easy to maneuver in the inner world because the rules are different than the outer world, but people don't know that until they actually are guided through that. So just like the clients that come because they want more, they want to go deeper, they want more freedom. And most of them have, done enough work to recognize that, or to get themselves ready to go deeper. Not all, some are just like, let's do this. But to the people that are intrigued or drawn to learning this to facilitate themselves or to facilitate others, are spiritually oriented, but not in a dogmatic way, right? It's more about the inspiration, the epiphanies, seeing, power blossom and beauty unfold, and to learn more about what's possible in the context of us guiding someone else. So it's very blessingful work. We get blessed, a hundredfold as we're just serving in our role as the guide. And because every client that comes to us is bringing us some gifts and there's something for us to learn there. And even though we're in the role and have the responsibility of guiding them, and we honor that, they're truly bringing us lots of richness.
Once I realized the synchronicity of that, once I realized that every connection, every client is really divinely ordered in this way, that when they journey inward and I can just experience by bearing witness to where they're at in the journey and realizing the blessing that I feel weekly listening to the client's journey and what they're experiencing, and how often it's so reflects aspects of my own life and what I need, or in ways that it feels meant for the collective.
Mm-hmm.
I often have themes that will show up, information that will come through, get unearthed, that's similar to other clients in pockets of time, where 3 clients in the same week will reference a very similar healing or experience that's uncanny, things they're referencing, songs they're referencing. Like, it's just so fascinating. And it is true, it feels like it is a gift for us to bear witness and be a part of those journeys, as well as the excitement that we often feel as practitioners for the emails and texts we get constantly saying, you're not going to believe what happened. I just blah, blah, blah for the first time in 20 years, or I just this, or I just that, or remember how this happened in the journey? The exact same thing now happened in the 3D. It's, and we get to be in that win with them, and that feels like such a gift to what we get to do in this work.
Yeah, a little bit like that. How I imagine a good classroom teacher who sees the light bulb go off over the kid's head.
Right.
Our clients experience that, and we get to by proxy. And also the facilitator participates here. We're not separate looking down on you while you do your thing. We're not on the journey with you, but we do have one foot in the journey with you, right, while we're out here making sure that we honor our responsibility as your guide. But we are using the tools as we're working with the client, with the journeyer. And that's one of the advantages that they give us, is they give us a reason to use our tools, to go within, right, connect to our most complete wisdom, our guidance that then connects to the journeyer's guidance. So as we're guiding them, there might be a word or a phrase that we are, I say, divinely inspired to offer. And it can just like change everything for them. And, some of my teachers trained or they experienced sitting with Milton Erickson, who's known as the greatest hypnotherapist of all times. He was an MD psychiatrist in a wheelchair, and but nobody could figure out what he was doing, because there were certain words and phrases that he used that people have codified, but other than that, they don't understand what he was doing, because it's like he was just telling people stories. He would just talk to people. And some people would leave angry because, why did you talk to me about a plant when I came here to solve this problem? And they leave and their problem was solved. So
right.
My sense of understanding what was happening there is what we as the guides do in SMGI is that we're tuned in. We're tuned into our body, which connects us to our guidance, right, which connects to your guidance. And then things will come to us to share with you. It's not a psychic reading or anything. It's just like there's a moment where it's like, offer this to them. And we don't know if it's helpful or not helpful. But if we have the courage to offer it, oftentimes we're rewarded by them just like, oh my gosh. And then off they go on their journey in a more robust way. So right, that's part of what they help us do, is have the motivation to be doing the work where we're connected. And you know, just like those Jesus quotes, ask and you shall be given, seek and you shall find. Mm-hmm. Like this, when we're guiding you, we are asking and it is given. When you're on a journey, you're asking and it's given. You're seeking and you find the treasure inside of you. And you know, and just like in my religious days when I was studying all those things, it really made no sense to me, the Jesus quote about these miracles shall you also do, but even greater. It's like, you know, like what? How? Mm-hmm. But this work, you know, helps me understand what that means, because you know, the things people report, it's like, no way. What? And awesome. Wow. And then of course it inspires us. It's like we keep asking for more and our lives keep getting better.
It's true. It's like once you start to do this work, I referenced this recently. A client was asking me about it, of how it almost becomes a lifestyle. It really changes your inner landscape so dramatically. You know, the 4 essential steps, the first part of the journey, I use those daily, not just in the morning as I'm drinking my coffee, but I use them in real time when my nervous system moves into fight or flight. And I've used them enough now that I can be in a situation that in the past would have been very unnerving, where I would have immediately popped out of my body and not been physically present because I didn't feel safe. And now I can be speaking with someone, even potentially a pretty provocative or difficult conversation, and at the same time I'm doing the 4 steps while I'm right in the conversation. And what happens is that hyper-focused hypervigilance to their words, ways I would have been scanning their body before as an empath, fully changes. And now I'm focused on my own physical experience. It's like I came for one thing and ended up getting these impeccable boundaries on top of it. It's like it just keeps filling out what it's good for. But for me, it really has been largely about being able to use the steps in real time.
Yeah, well, that reminds me of the stickiest quote, you know, and who knows which quotes actually happened because of all those white-haired old dudes that did all that editing, the Council of Nicaea or whatever. But hey, if it's helpful, let's use it. But pray without ceasing. It's like that one really threw me. It's like, how does a person pray without ceasing? That does make no sense. But now, because of this work, I totally get it, because we learn that we can be in this constant ongoing dialogue with our inner resources, with our body, with our allies, with our guidance. We can be in this ongoing dialogue, and so we're sensing and we're choosing based on not just trying to think like what's going to be the right choice, what's going to be the best choice, but connected into this this kind of community of wisdom and love and support that we can access through our body. So just it can become kind of second nature, where we're kind of in dialogue with our inner advisors, so to speak. And then in those moments where our nervous system is highly activated, then we can use those 4 simple steps, those 4 essential steps, to calm, settle, and stabilize, so that we can be more resourced in order to serve the situation and ourselves in the best way possible.
Yeah. The 4 essential steps, can you talk a little bit about what those are, and why they are like what I call the key codes to everything?
I know. They're like the truncated microcosmic version of the greater work that we do with clients. But the 4 essential steps, first is attention in the body and notice a sensation. So, a lot of us that are drawn to become SMGI guides, we've had a lot of experience with dissociation, with leaving our body, with flying away, with extreme pain and terror. So, and it's not uncommon, to most of humanity, but we've got a lot of experience with it. So helping people to just move their attention into their body is a huge, big deal, because we've kind of learned that anywhere but that. And so attention in the body, when you notice a sensation, you're in meditation, you are in trance, you are hooked up. You've now got an open channel between you and all that your body gives you access to, the remedy for anything. So first step, attention in the body, notice the sensation, whether you like it or not, whether it feels good or not, whether it makes sense or not. The second step is the art of practicing non-resistance. But we make that simple by offering the magical phrase, the trick phrase, notice, acknowledge, allow. Now, unlike some mindfulness practices, we're not welcoming it, because in some cases that would be a effing lie. We're not saying, I love you. Well, we are just noticing, acknowledging, and allowing. So we're giving a non-threatening and non-demanding quality of attention to whatever we're noticing, even if it's something that we hate and we want to get rid of, and a part of ourselves that we might be hating on and want to get rid of. Right. And when we hate on ourselves, that makes everything worse, right? Because there's all the contraction and constriction and resistance. So that also works, with outer world people when they're flipping out, right? We can notice, acknowledge, and allow them without trying to shut them down or soothe them. So, doing it with yourself is the ultimate mastery. And that's what SMGI is all about, the ultimate mastery. So attention in, notice any sensation, then notice, acknowledge, allow. Typically what you're noticing will change in response to your attention, because the body, all of you, loves your attunement, your presence, your attention. And just that alone will begin to calm, settle, and stabilize or regulate your nervous system. And then you can take it farther by allowing your belly to soften, and then offering your breath into that soft belly as a gift, right? Because most of us, we want to learn something, we want to do it the best we possibly can. We want to breathe as deep as we can, so we do it right and do it good. But then the body can feel forced, and that can engender resistance. So when we're breathing into a softened belly a few times, then if we're in a state of anxiety, we don't want to force deep belly breathing, because that can exacerbate it into a panic attack. So we offer it really honestly as a gift. You can take it or leave it. Most of the time, because your body doesn't feel forced, it will take even more, and thankfully so. And then you'll notice that your nervous system continues to get calmer and more settled and more stable. Now, relaxation could be a net effect, but it's not about relaxation. This is really about connection, because it's our connection, it's our presence, it's our attention that is the most powerful thing that we have to utilize to shift our state of experience and to create our own experience of reality. And step number 4 is the BFI, the better feeling image. And when you breathe into that soft belly, not only is it further regulating your nervous system, but it's activating the right hemisphere of the brain, which is the access point, the portal, if you will, to the remedy for you in that moment or for long term. And so it's simply just breathe into your soft belly, move your attention to the right side, and allow something to come to mind that feels good. And then whatever comes, whether it makes sense or not, just immerse your attention in the details of it. And when we're guiding, we might say, and just notice the colors, the shapes, the textures, any sounds, any smells, and then notice how it feels in your body. So you can start to trust that help is available, and your body lets you know, oh, that actually did help. Oh, so then you're inspired to continue using it, knowing that it will help you. It will bring benefit. You will be more resourced, and you'll be able to serve the situation in a better way than otherwise.
Yeah, my default previous to this work was either holding my breath or the most shallow breathing you have ever witnessed.
Completely natural.
and disassociating, popping out of my body. And now I've done it enough that I can be eyes open in whatever's going on. And I'm standing behind a waterfall at the same time, and the water's like beating on my shoulders, and it feels so good. And I'm like, and what else? And what, like, just so whatever's out here is becomes secondary. The narrative, the story is not what's in focus. So it's like instantly that dial gets turned down, no matter what it looks like or presents like. That tornado, whatever it is in the moment, I feel like I'm at the center of the Tao. It's interesting. It's like, I'm just behind this waterfall and it's all okay. I'm still taking in what's there. I'm not resisting it. I'm allowing it in because I'm resourced or resourcing myself simultaneously while that information is coming in.
Yeah, and other nervous systems around you feel it, and their nervous system will shift in response to yours. In modern day popular psychology terms, co-regulation. But as guides, we are definitely using that, because sometimes it's like, oh, what do we do here? Right. And so we're using those tools just to stay present and wait for inspiration. And we've got plenty of phrases we can throw out. But yeah, the 4 essential steps, they're a great little induction or introduction to meditation, but where they really shine is in those up-tempo situations, in calming, settling, stabilizing, so you can perform.
I love the branding, up-tempo situation.
Yeah, I didn't.
What a beautifully neutral way to reference that. I love it.
That actually comes from military veterans.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's a reference. That's a phrase they use.
Nice.
Yeah. Because it doesn't get to be a situation that shut me down or overwhelmed me, right? But it's definitely up tempo in which I need to bring my resources to in order to.
Right. Yeah. Beautiful. I don't feel like I have any. This feels like this really rounded out for me. This wanting to delve into where does the soul play in? How does this, speaking about the right side of the brain, the client or the journeyer as the main role. So what else do you think feels important to support this conversation about this aspect of SMGI?
Yeah. Well, 2 things come to mind. And one is a client, a woman who came to work with me and referred to herself as a recovering Stepford wife. And she came, she wanted to lose some weight, and she had some trauma in her history that came up to be addressed so that she could create what she wanted. And 6 or 8 sessions in, as I was checking in with her at the start of the session, asking her what she noticed was different, she said to me, there's this one thing. Every year for the last 20 years, when I would get up in the morning, there would be a ticker tape going across the bottom of my awareness of mean, hateful things towards me. And shortly after we started working together, that disappeared and it just hasn't come back.
Wow.
I said, don't you wonder what thing or series of things we did to create that? Because we did, but how do we do that? Because she never mentioned that. We didn't try to get rid of that.
Right.
And the other thing that comes to mind is for about 10 years, I had a really fancy wellness center. And one of the wonderful practitioners I had in there was a holistic psychotherapist. And so she arranged for me to present at a lunch and learn meeting for her fellow psychotherapists. And so I did the presentation. She was very happy with what I presented. A few days later, the evaluations came back and everybody was glowing remarks except for this one person. And that person said, she makes herself out to be a miracle worker. And at the time, that really stung. And then I felt defensive naturally. And then it kind of dogged me for a few days until I turned towards it and realized, you know what? I am a miracle worker. I am that. I will own that. I will own that. And as I presented, I didn't present, I'm doing this. I was talking about the work and the results the work gets, but she projected that onto me. And so, when I owned that, then it's like, okay, not everyone is going to appreciate this work or this style of work or its orientation, what it includes, what it leaves out. But it doesn't matter, because people's soul will direct them to engage in it, to experience it. People's souls will direct them to learn the work, to better facilitate themselves, or to take it to their sphere of influence. And yeah, I'm a miracle worker. I'm not the creator of your miracles.
Right.
But I've experienced enough miracles in my own life. And thank goodness for all those thousands of clients that really helped me learn to believe what is possible. Because the life I came from, not much was possible, and there wasn't any encouragement to move beyond the boundaries that I was living within.
It's interesting that you use the word miracle, because the final question that we ask clients before we move inward is, if we could produce a miracle for you here today, what would it be? And often people have a hesitation for a moment of even engaging with the word miracle. Like they're not allowed to. They're not allowed to think it. They're certainly not allowed to say it. They're certainly definitely would not expect it. But it is a really powerful word of, if we could produce a miracle for you here today, what would it be? And as we know, when we speak, our parts are listening. And it really does become this invitation. And, it often will stick with the client, that sentence, because then those are the emails or the texts that come back that said the miracle happened. So they remember that word and then use it. So I kind of love this term, or this job title of miracle worker. We're working towards helping them get their miracles. It's kind of lovely.
And we get to, when we check in, we get to listen for what miracles happened in their lives. And, when that question is, it's like a trick for the good. It's a trick question, because it helps to bypass the critical, what is possible, reasonable, logical, practical, rational, right? So it helps to access that part, that if anything was possible and there, weren't any rules or limitations, but that just going there and feeling that in their body creates the possibility that that can actually be made manifest in their experience.
Right. Yeah. And there's something playful about the word, when we say, what are your desires? They shut down quite often because
Yeah.
that means that like, you don't get to do that. You don't get to have desires. You're not allowed. You haven't worked hard enough. You haven't blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
But there's something about if we could produce a miracle for you, what would it be? And then you kind of see them go into that playful state, which
Yeah.
is often where we see the change happen in the inner journey, is from that playful frequency, setting down the big boulders of the shoulds and the coulda and all of that into that more playful frequency.
Yeah, I think you really nailed it. The SMGI is playful. It's very professional.
Right.
And yet the frequency is playful. And that helps because with SMGI, we break so many rules.
Right.
We really do. Not just the subconscious rules that have been put in place, but rules of the status quo in the therapy world. Right.
Right.
So to ask a person to break a big rule is like, huge. It could feel like treason or something. So it's just like explore, experiment. And as we support them on their journeys, our attitude is one of playfulness and wonder. At the same time, we're honoring very respectfully our responsibility as their guide. Yet, that's part of the cues that people's body and energy systems are listening for. It's like, what are the rules here?
Yes.
And so that subtle playfulness gives so much permission for so much to come forth within the journeyer.
Beautiful. Yes. And each session is so different.
Yeah.
Two are so rarely ever the same for the clients. Their 3 sessions are so different. But I mean, it just feels boundless really in what they could look like, feel like, experience.
Yeah. And that's something that maybe is valuable for people to know, is that each session they have, if they just have 3 or if they have 300, each one is going to be unique. And if they work with more than one SMGI practitioner, then those sessions will be unique too, because when 2 people are coming together, there are certain things that are activated because of those 2 individuals. And so that informs the journey. That informs what's possible. So, so I encourage people that have the opportunity to do as many sessions as they can, because the more you do, the more you get. And if drawn, experience other practitioners, and then you'll, it will be very informative to you. It's like, oh, with that practitioner, I noticed these edges in me, right? Oh, with this practitioner, I feel just more whatever, but it's all very kind of self-diagnostic. So yeah, it's like a candy store, right? It's like an inner world candy store where it's just like, what do you want? Nope, you don't have to narrow it down. You get to ask for everything you want, and you get to have everything you want. So let's just guide you in for you to experience what needs to happen in order for all of that to come into your experience. And it does.
Yeah. Yes to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So Michelle, we had talked about earlier of doing a little demonstration. Are you up for that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm just checking into my body right now to see how to proceed. All right. So because of this context, we're doing an interview for the public. I trust that your inner wisdom will connect you to whatever's most beneficial for you to connect to in safe and appropriate ways. for this context.
Yep. Yes.
And know that you don't need to share any details that you don't wish to share, that you're not comfortable sharing. We don't need the details, but you're welcome to share any details that you like.
Okay.
And so I want to invite you, just if you would, just to feel into your body. And typically it would be to, connect to something that you want to be different, you want to change, you want to grow, you want to diminish. But let's just do the advanced version, since you've had a lot of sessions. And so I invite you to just kind of feel into your body and let your attention be drawn to a place of discomfort or unease. And let me know when you heard that.
Okay. Yeah. I have a bit of I'll call it a hollowness. I'd say it feels like it's in my chest, maybe mid ribs, almost like sternum. I feel this feels kind of ancient. This feeling of like this separation, loneliness. It feels like 1,000 years old. It feels like it's been there a long time. And as you mentioned, discomfort, it was like, oh, instantly it wanted my attention.
Beautiful. Yeah. So I invite you, just nice and slow, gentle and easy, just give your attention to it in a light way and just notice it and acknowledge it. Allow it to be just as it is. Yeah, and it might change in response to this quality of non-threatening, non-demanding attention, or it might stay the same. It doesn't matter. What do you notice?
It went from it felt almost before like it had the edges of like a empty cardboard box that had been like wet and dried a bunch of times. And then as you were talking, it sort of turned into this, it felt more like almost like a latex paint that was like then dripping and getting like really long and sort of like melting. Certainly not like, didn't turn joyous, but moved from this like hollow, rigid texture into this more liquid, like, I guess melting or dissolving, but feels more like I'd call it changing state than going away.
Yeah, beautiful. Just notice that, acknowledge that, let it be as it is in this moment now. And when you're ready, move your attention to your abdomen, if you would, and just allow your belly to soften without forcing, just in an easy, natural, comfortable way for you. Yeah, good. And then into that softened belly, offer the gift of your breath 2, 3, maybe 4 times, just as a gift that your body can take or leave. Nothing to release or relax or let go of. No problem to solve. No praise, no blame. You're just offering the gift of your breath into your soft belly. And as you do, Michelle, notice how your body is responding to the gift of your breath. If it's changing in any way or if it's staying just the same.
So as that liquidy, melty stuff was happening, all of a sudden I could feel this, like, felt like almost this vice grip on my throat, like I couldn't breathe, like my throat was closing up and heaviness in my chest, high chest.
Beautiful.
And so then as I started the breathing, by about the 3rd breath, I'd say it just kind of disappeared.
How do you feel about that?
Don't feel anyway, just is.
Good. Good. All right. With your next deep breath into your soft belly, move your attention to the right side of your brain, if you would, and allow an image to come to mind of the remedy for what you were noticing in your chest earlier. And whatever has come to mind for you, Just immerse your attention in the details of it. Notice.
So I can't really make out exactly what any of this means, but I'm in this, like, I don't know, looks like an old library or lab or something, and there's this spiral staircase, and I'm going up this spiral staircase, and I'm like right in front of this wall, and there's all these like volumes of like potion books, and then there's all these potions on the shelves next to the books, so it feels very like I don't know, kind of Harry Potter or mystical, and I have this like sense of wonder of like, ooh, which should I put my attention on or focus on with my eyes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I invite you to simply allow your attention to be drawn to the one that wants your attention first. Or the group of them.
It's this beaker. It's like a large beaker, and it's got this like neon yellowish green liquid in it, and it's got like bubbles in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as you just take it nice and slow, just noticing those physical details about this particular beaker, let yourself feel into it and notice some of the inner qualities it possesses. What do you notice?
Can't right now. I'm not feeling the inner qualities as much as when I picked up this beaker. It was really warm or like almost hot.
Yeah.
And it's really heavy, like the liquid in it's super heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So if I kind of look inward into that, there's something about like heaviness that feels like it's grounded, it feels sturdy, it feels able, it feels like it's a solid choice for something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And if you could ask or say anything to this beaker, if you just treated it like it was a somebody, what would you want to ask or say?
What would I want to say? How can I best stay in trust all the time?
Yeah. And just ask that directly, whether you do it silently with your words in your mind or with a thought to thought kind of communication, or even a soul to soul kind of telepathy, and allow it to respond back to you in a way you can easily understand.
So it's more sending this energy to me. It's not using words. It's like I feel almost like I drank it, but I didn't.
Yeah.
Like I can feel it, that those qualities, I guess, being kind of making my body feel heavier and more capable.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I just follow that, I guess, with a thread, I'm hearing something about just know that no matter what, everything is always some version of okay. So it feels like it's almost, I guess, breaking down for me how to move more into trust, maybe. I don't know. It just feels good. So I'm almost having a hard time pulling words because it's just more of a feeling.
Yeah. So I invite you, if you're willing, to simply immerse your attention in those feelings in your body.
Mm-hmm.
And just allow yourself to experience these particular sensations in your body as long as they are available to you. Because at some point, as all things do, it will shift and change, and you'll sense a readiness for what's next. But until then, just allow this precious window of downtime where you can experience the benefits that come with this state of experience. without rush or hurry.
Hmm. Okay, it feels like it's starting to dissipate now.
Good, good. And for this kind of brief demonstration, I invite you next to simply breathe into your soft belly to support your receptivity and allow yourself to become aware of anything else helpful or beneficial to be aware of before we move to completing for today.
I sort of looked back and I was like, can I take a couple of those books with me, those like potion books? And so I quickly got a yes. And so I just grabbed a few of them and like put them underneath my ribs so I could like look at them later.
Mm-hmm. Good. Good. And as you do prepare to come back to so-called ordinary awareness in the outer world, know that you can return to your inner world and the resources, the remedies that are there for you anytime you want to or need to. And you can remember everything that you experienced today that's important for you to remember. And you can come back to your life and your relationships, enjoying, noticing, sensing, feeling what's different, what's easier, and what's better now because of what you connected to, experienced, and accomplished here today. So when it feels complete for you, just let your eyes float open. And what are you noticing about how you're feeling right now after that?
I feel really tall. It was the first time I've probably done, I don't know, at least 40 to 50 journeys at least. It was the first time that the ideal place was like very vertical and super narrow.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just a really different landscape than I'd ever experienced before. So it just felt intriguing to have it be someplace really new.
Beautiful.
So
thank you for your willingness to do that and to share it with the world.
my pleasure.
Yeah. And I trust that many will be blessed just witnessing your experience process. Mm-hmm.
That would be great.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else you want or need to feel complete for this connection, this way of connecting today?
Let me think about that. No, I feel pretty complete. These last few interviews, it's been so lovely to just really hit in these different little pockets of nuggets or importance of these gems and how they all sort of fit together or each one on their own. And this one I think was really so key to the foundation around this soul work.
Mm. Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean, practitioners can call themselves whatever they want, but we really, at essence, are soul guides. We're guiding people back to their souls.
Right.
While honoring their humanity, their human experience, but bringing more and more of that into their human experience so that they can appreciate how loved and lovable and eternally safe they are. And that
right, eternally safe. Wow.
yeah.
Yes to that.
Yeah. And of course we could say that, but it doesn't matter if someone doesn't experience the truth of that for themselves.
Right.
And
Yeah.
there's degrees of it, right? I have many more degrees of it than I ever used to, but I still have more degrees that I can experience of
Right.
eternal safety and powers that I have available to me to spread my wings even further. And nothing brings me greater joy than to witness you spreading your wings even further, realizing the beauty and power that you possess. and honoring the intensity of squeezing all that into your beautiful human body and this human experience, the Richard
Yeah,
Navy SEAL team adventure for all.
right. Yeah, that hero's journey for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, all right. I know I'll see you in class.
Yeah, you will. I'm
Yeah.
gonna do it again the next session. So,
Yeah.
all righty. Thank you so much. I'll see you soon.
Look
Right.
forward to that.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.